After 70, be wise to keep. These 5 things secret from your family to avoid regret and family tension. If you're over 70 and still sharing everything with your family, you might be setting yourself up for heartbreak you never saw coming. Last month, a 73-year-old woman named Helen discovered this the hard way when a single conversation about her savings turned her peaceful retirement into a battleground of judgment and demands. What she thought was trust became her biggest regret. Here's the truth nobody talks about. After decades of putting family first, there are certain things you must keep to yourself. Not because you're being secretive, but because you're being wise. The boundaries you set now will determine whether your golden years bring you peace or endless family drama. What you're about to discover might feel uncomfortable at first, but thousands of seniors who've learned this lesson wish they'd known it sooner. Stay with me, because the 5th secret on this list could save you from the most painful family conflict of your life. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the 5 critical pieces of information you should never share with your family after 70, and exactly why keeping them private protects both your dignity and your relationships. You'll discover why talking about your finances can trigger inheritance wars before you're even gone. How sharing your health details can lead to unwanted control over your independence, and why discussing your estate plans might create division instead of gratitude. I'll also show you the surprising reason why revealing your daily routines and personal friendships can invite judgment that damages your self-esteem. And finally, the most overlooked secret that even well-meaning children use against their parents. Each section includes real-life scenarios you'll recognize immediately, plus practical scripts for deflecting intrusive questions without causing offense. The final secret, number 5, is the one that catches most seniors off guard because it seems so harmless. Yet it's destroyed more family harmony than all the others combined. If you've ever felt pressured to explain your choices, questioned about your spending, or made to feel like you're losing your right to privacy, this video will validate your feelings and give you permission to reclaim your boundaries. Let's dive in and make sure you watch until the end, because that 5th secret could change everything for you. Secret number 1. Your financial details. The first thing you must keep private after 70 is the complete picture of your financial situation. And this includes your savings, your investments, your income sources, and any assets you own. Here's why this matters so much. The moment your family knows exactly how much money you have, their perception of you begins to shift in ways that are almost impossible to reverse. Take the story of Vernon, a 72-year-old retired engineer who casually mentioned to his son during a holiday dinner that he'd just received a significant bonus from his pension fund. Within weeks, his son began suggesting expensive family vacations that Dad could easily afford. His daughter started hinting about needing help with her mortgage. And suddenly every family gathering included subtle references to his comfortable situation. Vernon went from being a respected father to being viewed as a potential ATM. And the worst part, his children didn't even realize they were doing it. The psychology here is simple but brutal. When people know you have money, their requests stop feeling like impositions to them. They rationalize that you can afford it, so why wouldn't you help? But here's what they don't consider: that money represents your security, your independence, and your ability to handle emergencies or enjoy your remaining years without financial stress. Once you start funding everyone else's problems or desires, you set a precedent that's nearly impossible to break without causing massive resentment. Your children might think, Mum has $200,000 in savings. She can certainly spare $15,000 for our kitchen renovation. Without considering that those savings need to last you another 15 or 20 years, cover potential medical expenses, and maintain your quality of life. Even worse, discussing your finances can trigger inheritance calculations while you're still alive. Adult children start mentally dividing your assets, comparing what their siblings might receive, and making financial decisions based on expectations of future wealth transfer. This creates toxic family dynamics, where your worth becomes tied to your wallet. Now, you might be thinking, but shouldn't my family know if I'm struggling financially? That's different. If you need genuine help, that's a necessary conversation. But revealing wealth or comfortable financial status serves no positive purpose. It only creates opportunity for requests, expectations, and judgment about how you spend your own money. If someone asks directly, you can deflect with responses like, "We're managing fine, thank you for asking," or "We've got what we need, nothing to worry about." You don't owe anyone a detailed accounting of your finances. Remember, you worked decades for that security. Protecting it isn't selfish, it's essential. The seniors who maintain financial privacy report dramatically less family tension, fewer awkward requests, and preserved relationships built on love rather than money. Keep your financial situation vague, deflect specific questions kindly but firmly, and watch how it protects both your resources and your family harmony. Secret number 2, detailed health information. The second critical secret to guard carefully is the full extent of your health challenges and medical diagnoses, especially the minor ones that don't truly impact your independence. This might sound counterintuitive because we're taught that family should know about health issues, but there's a crucial distinction between sharing serious, life-threatening conditions and revealing every ache, pain, and doctor's visit. Consider what happened to Sylvia, a vibrant 74-year-old who mentioned to her daughter that her doctor had noticed slightly elevated blood pressure and wanted to monitor it. Nothing serious, just routine age-related changes. But her daughter immediately went into crisis mode. Suddenly, Sylvia was receiving daily phone calls, checking if she'd taken her medication, unsolicited articles about diet changes, and worst of all, her daughter started suggesting that maybe Sylvia shouldn't be living alone anymore. What was a minor, manageable health issue became ammunition for her daughter to start controlling her life out of concern. Here's the reality. When adult children learn about your health problems, their anxiety often overrides their rationality. They catastrophize. They imagine worst-case scenarios. And most damaging of all, they start making decisions about your capabilities based on limited medical information they don't fully understand. That diagnosis of arthritis becomes "Mom can't handle stairs anymore." That routine cardiology appointment becomes "Dad's heart is failing." The mention of occasional memory lapses becomes "We need to talk about memory care facilities." Even well-meaning family members use health information to justify taking control, and once you lose that control, getting it back is nearly impossible. Beyond the control issue, there's also the emotional burden you place on your family when you share every health concern. Your children are already worried about aging parents. Giving them a constant stream of medical updates keeps them in a state of low-level anxiety that damages everyone's quality of life. They can't fix your aging body, so the information just makes them feel helpless and worried. There's also the very real possibility that health information gets shared beyond your immediate family. Your daughter tells her husband, who mentions it to his sister, and suddenly your private medical situation is neighborhood gossip. Your independence and dignity deserve protection. Now, to be clear, if you have a serious diagnosis that affects your safety or requires support, that's information your family needs. A cancer diagnosis, a stroke, severe mobility issues, these warrant transparency because they genuinely impact your care needs. But the everyday health challenges of aging, the joint pain, the blood pressure medication, the slightly slower reflexes, these are yours to manage privately. When family asks about your health, practice responses like, "I'm doing well for my age, nothing to worry about," or "The doctor says everything is as expected, I'm taking care of myself." You can acknowledge you're staying on top of your health without providing details that will be weaponized into concerns about your competence. The seniors who maintain health privacy report feeling more respected, more independent, and less infantilized by their families. Your health challenges don't define your capabilities. Don't let your family think they do. Secret number 3. Your estate plans and will details. The third secret you absolutely must protect is the specific contents of your will, your estate plans, and any decisions you've made about inheritance distribution. This might be the most emotionally explosive topic on this list because money and family create a toxic combination even in the most loving households. Here's what typically happens. A well-intentioned parent sits down with their adult children and explains how the estate will be divided. Perhaps the family home goes to one child, investments to another, personal items distributed according to sentimental value. The parent thinks this transparency will prevent future conflicts and shows fairness. Instead, it ignites immediate resentment, comparison, and years of simmering tension. Let me tell you about Clarence, a 76-year-old father of 3 who decided to share his estate plans during a family meeting. He'd carefully divided everything equally by value. The oldest son would get the house, the daughter would receive equivalent value in stocks, and the youngest son would inherit the vacation property plus some cash to balance things out. Clarence thought he'd been perfectly fair, but within days the family was fracturing. The daughter was furious that her brother got the family home with all its memories, while she got impersonal stocks. The youngest son felt insulted that he received cash, like he needed a payout. The oldest son felt burdened by property taxes and maintenance he hadn't asked for. What Clarence intended as transparent fairness became a source of hurt feelings, accusations of favoritism, and damaged sibling relationships, all while he was still alive to watch it unfold. The fundamental problem with sharing estate plans is that adult children immediately start evaluating not just the monetary value, but the emotional significance of what they're receiving compared to their siblings. Every decision you made gets scrutinized, questioned, and interpreted through the lens of who did mom and dad love most. Even perfectly equal distributions create conflict when children assign different values to different assets. Beyond the sibling rivalry issue, sharing your estate plans can lead to pressure to change them. If a child feels slighted, they'll lobby for adjustments. They'll explain why they deserve more, why their sibling deserves less, why circumstances have changed. You'll face guilt, manipulation, and the emotional exhaustion of defending choices that were already difficult to make. Some families even experience adult children changing their behavior toward you based on their inheritance expectations. Suddenly, the child receiving the most becomes extra attentive, while others withdraw in resentment. There's also the very practical concern that people make current financial decisions based on expected inheritance. A child might take on debt or make poor choices thinking, "I'll inherit enough to cover it," and then blame you if circumstances change and the inheritance is smaller than expected. Your estate plans are yours to make, change, and keep private until after you're gone. That's when the contents should be revealed, when you're no longer present to be manipulated, guilt-tripped, or hurt by the reactions. If family members ask about your will, you can simply say, "Everything is handled and documented with my attorney. You don't need to worry about it now." Or, "I've made arrangements that I believe are fair, and they'll be clear when the time comes." You owe no one a preview of your final wishes. The seniors who keep their estate plans private maintain better family relationships, avoid becoming targets of manipulation, and preserve their right to change their minds without explanation or family drama. Your legacy should be love and memories, not resentment over possessions. Secret number 4. Your daily routines and social activities. The fourth secret might surprise you because it seems so harmless. Keep the details of your daily routines, your social calendar, and your personal friendships relatively private from family who tend to be judgmental or controlling. Many people over 70 don't realize that sharing seemingly innocent information about how they spend their time can lead to unwanted criticism, concern, and interference that diminishes their joy and independence. Consider what happened to Nadine, a 71-year-old widow who enthusiastically told her son about her new Tuesday evening card game with friends at the community centre. She thought he'd be happy she was staying social and active. Instead, he immediately expressed concern about her driving at night, questioned whether she should be out so late at the age, and suggested she shouldn't overcommit because you need your rest. What was a source of happiness and connection became something she now felt defensive about, and she eventually stopped attending because the guilt and criticism weren't worth it. This pattern repeats constantly. You mention you've started going to morning swim class, and suddenly you're hearing concerns about slippery pool decks and your balance. You tell your daughter about your new friendship with a neighbour, and she wants to know everything about this person's background, because you need to be careful about people taking advantage of seniors. You share that you're volunteering at the local library, and family members worry you're doing too much or wearing yourself out. The underlying message in all of this is that your family no longer trusts your judgment about how to spend your time or who to spend it with. What they frame as concern is actually control. They're treating you like a child who needs supervision rather than an adult capable of making decisions. The impact on your emotional well-being is devastating because you start second-guessing activities that bring you joy, or worse, you stop doing them entirely to avoid the criticism. There's also the issue of privacy being violated when family members show up unannounced because they know you're home on Wednesday mornings, or they track your patterns and notice when you deviate. Some adult children use information about your routine to make judgments about your capabilities. If you mention you're tired after a busy day, suddenly they're suggesting you can't handle independent living anymore. Your daily activities and friendships are your own business. You're entitled to a social life, hobbies, and routines that aren't monitored or approved by your children. The appropriate amount of information to share is general and positive. I'm staying active and connected with friends, or I've been enjoying some new activities lately. You don't need to provide your weekly schedule or explain every social engagement. If someone pries with questions like, "What do you do all day?" or "Who are you spending time with?" you can deflect with, "Oh, I keep busy with this and that," enough to stay happy. Or, I've got a good balance of activities that work for me. When family members criticize your choices about how you spend your time, it's often rooted in their own anxiety about your aging or their desire to control what they can't accept, your continued independence and autonomy. Don't give them the detailed information they can use to interfere. The seniors who maintain some mystery about their daily lives report feeling more freedom, less judgment, and greater satisfaction with their activities because they're not constantly defending their choices. Your time is yours. Protect your right to spend it as you choose without providing a detailed itinerary to critics. Secret 5. Your personal feelings about family members. The fifth and perhaps most dangerous secret to guard is your honest feelings and observations about family dynamics, including your opinions about your children's life choices, your feelings about your grandchildren's behavior, or your observations about marriages and relationships within the family. This is the secret that seems most harmless to share, but causes the most irreparable damage to family relationships, because once certain words are spoken, they can never be unheard. Let me tell you about Eunice, a 73-year-old grandmother who made the mistake of confiding in her daughter Brenda that she was concerned about her other daughter Susan's marriage. She'd noticed Susan seemed unhappy and thought her son-in-law was controlling. Eunice thought she was having a private, caring conversation. But Brenda later mentioned it to Susan during an argument, and suddenly Eunice was accused of interfering, taking sides, and judging her son-in-law. Susan stopped bringing her husband to family gatherings, created distance from her mother, and the relationship never fully recovered. Eunice's honest concern, shared in what she thought was confidence, became a weapon that destroyed trust. Here's the brutal truth. When you share your feelings about one family member with another, you're creating several problems simultaneously. First, you're putting the listener in an awkward position, where they now carry information that might burden them or tempt them to get involved. Second, you're creating the possibility that your words will be repeated, often out of context or during conflict, where they'll cause maximum damage. Third, you're revealing preferences and judgments that adult children are incredibly sensitive about. Any suggestion that you disapprove of their choices or that you favor one family member over another creates wounds that last for years. Many seniors fall into this trap because they desperately want to process their feelings with someone, and family seems like the logical choice. You're worried about your grandson's drug use, so you confide in your daughter. You're frustrated with your son's parenting choices, so you vent to your other son. You think your granddaughter's boyfriend is bad news, so you share your concerns with her mother. Every one of these conversations carries enormous risk, because your observations, even when accurate and well-intentioned, will likely be received as criticism, judgment, or favoritism. The consequences extend beyond the immediate conflict. Once family members know you've been talking about them to others, trust evaporates. They become guarded around you, wondering what you're really thinking, what you're telling other people. Family gatherings become tense because people are self-conscious about your observations. And if there's ever a family conflict, your previous comments will be dredged up and used as evidence of your bias or interference. There's also the complicated reality that your feelings about family members might change, but once you've expressed a strong opinion, you're locked into that position. You criticize your daughter's husband, but later they work through their issues and have a strong marriage, except now your relationship with your son-in-law is permanently damaged by words you can't take back. So what do you do with these feelings and observations? Process them with friends outside the family, with a therapist, or keep them in a private journal. Anywhere but with other family members who are emotionally invested in the situation. When family members try to get you to share opinions about other relatives, what do you think about how Jake is handling his divorce? Or don't you think Sarah spoils those kids? Your response should be neutral and diplomatic. I try not to judge others' choices. Everyone's doing their best. Or that's between them to figure out. I'm staying out of it. The seniors who maintain this boundary report dramatically better family relationships because they're not caught in the middle of conflicts, not accused of favoritism, and not responsible for hurts caused by their honest observations. Your feelings about family dynamics are valid, but sharing them rarely helps and almost always hurts. Protect your family relationships by keeping these observations to yourself. So, where does all of this leave you? If you implement these 5 secrets, protecting your financial details, limiting health information sharing, keeping your estate plans private, maintaining some mystery about your daily life, and guarding your feelings about family dynamics, what actually changes? Here's what hundreds of seniors who've embraced strategic privacy report. They feel more respected by their families because they're no longer being treated as fragile or incompetent. They experience less family tension because they've eliminated the common sources of conflict. Money, inheritance expectations, unsolicited health advice, criticism of activities, and hurt feelings from expressed opinions. Most importantly, they feel more in control of their own lives because they've reclaimed their boundaries and their right to privacy. Their relationships with their children improve because interactions become positive rather than invasive. Instead of defending their choices or managing others' anxieties, they enjoy quality time focused on connection rather than interrogation. The transformation isn't about becoming secretive or distant. It's about recognizing that healthy relationships at any age require boundaries and that your dignity and independence are worth protecting. You've earned the right to live your final decades on your terms, making your own choices without constant scrutiny. Embrace these boundaries with confidence, knowing you're not being dishonest, you're being wise. The peace you'll experience is the reward for decades of putting others first and finally prioritizing your own well-being. If this video resonated with you and you recognize yourself in any of these situations, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button so more seniors who need this message can find it. And if you want more honest, practical advice for living your best life after 60, click that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a video.